I was finishing seminary, I was always wondering what that moment of ordination would feel like. Would I get zapped in the head and feel this transcendent moment of incredible grace and bliss? Or would I feel this immediate sense of, oh my God, what have I done? And now that I'm about 5 months into this, I kind of thought back to my moment of ordination and thought, I've thought and felt none of that. What I did feel was more important. When I was standing in front of the bishop, and the bishop said to me, "Will you seek in my vows?" And I said, "I will." I was transported back to that moment in my life, and in many moments in my life, where I encountered people that helped me seek, and helped me find, and helped me search. One of my incredible friends in Toronto has a young child, and he is going through the ordination process himself, his father, and his son knows that if his dad ever asks a question, you always answer with, "Because Jesus, right, Daddy?" And he knows that if you just say, "Because Jesus," Dad will stop asking you a question. And so I asked him one day, what does it feel like to have your dad wanting to be this weird priest? And he said, because Jesus. I thought, that's pretty easy. But what else is there? It would be really easy to just say, oh, just because Jesus. But really, honestly, he's right. And I look in my days and I look in my weeks ever since I was ordained and think, what am I doing? Why am I here? What's going on? What does this collar mean? What does this community mean? What am I searching for? And I look in the faces of the people that I work with and the people that I wander with and think, because Jesus. That's why I'm here. And in the moment of my ordination, when I was on my knees in front of the bishop, sweating out of every pore in my body because it was like 45 degrees in that church, the only thing I could think of was all the people that brought me to that moment. The woman on Altar Guild who scared the living bejesus out of me because I was so afraid to drop something that she would kill me. To the grandparents and the grandmom and granddads of the parish that knit me sleepwear to bring me home from the hospital in, who prayed over me on my last Sunday at my parish before I went to seminary. To the aunts and uncles that I had in the parish that corrected me when I was wrong, to the people who supported me in my discernment, to the people who said, you can do better than this if you just try a bit harder. I thought, what made the difference? It was more than just Jesus. It was their willingness to take a risk on me as a child to let me discover and wonder and find who I am in Jesus in the midst of community. It wasn't good enough for them to just have me go out into the hall during children's time and to play with crayons. They wanted me to go and run up to the altar and pull on the hangings and look at the Bible and ask questions out loud and sing in the choir and do all those weird, awkward things that we think, God, if that child could just be quiet for 5 minutes, I can pray in silence. What part of Jesus was ever silent? What part of Jesus ever said, just sit in the corner and be good? Jesus calls us to be more than good. Jesus calls us to be loud and in people's faces and be willing to ask the deeper question of, why are you here? It's not just good enough to show up. Why are you here? And what can we do to help you get there? One of the challenges in brand new ministry is finding out, why am I here? You kind of learn everything from how to work the Xerox machine to how to plug in an AV machine to how to bury someone and baptize someone and marry someone and all that other cool, weird things that we do. And that's the key. It's weird, but it's really cool. So I look back to all those people in my life and think, if they didn't let me be the weird, cool person that they knew that I could be, I wouldn't be on my knees in front of the bishop, praying to God to give me the strength to do what he's called me to do. And so I want to invite us tonight to think as a church where we can let ourselves be more weird, where we can let ourselves as children of God be more weird. And that includes our children who we bring to church and the children we encounter in church. I don't think it's good enough for us to take our kids and think this is our future and to put them in a hall somewhere and tell them to be quiet for an hour while we're upstairs listening to the stories that ground our faith, receive the sacraments that enable our lives, and bring community together that helps transform our lives around us. I don't think it's good enough that we tell our kids that you need to be quiet and you can't dream and you can't aspire for an hour every Sunday, to put on your best clothes and just to sit there nicely. What if we all looked within ourselves and found that place in ourselves where we could identify as that messy, weird kid that just wants to color all day long and finger paint and make a mess and scream and throw something, and think, if it wasn't because I was allowed to do that, maybe I wouldn't be here today. The answer is never just as easy as just Jesus. It's almost a throwaway line sometimes, but yet it is that easy. It takes a lot of courage to stand up in a community and say, I want my kids to be part of this. And not just because I want to fill the plate with money afterwards and have them come back. When I was looking out into the congregation at my ordination and thinking, holy Moses, there's all these people. And it'd be so easy to think that this whole moment was about me. None of it was about me. That moment was about the church saying, wow, look at this new life that's coming and the new life that's coming afterwards. The next generation of priests and clergy and laity that are coming together to celebrate something that's really important to the ongoing nature of the church. And I saw the little kids in the mom's arms and the kids playing in the corner and thought, where will they be in 10 years? What will they be doing? And how will we support them? If it wasn't for God's help, through the many, many, many people that I had met in my journey, I would not be standing here in front of you tonight. I would not have been on my knees in front of the bishop asking for God's help. I would probably be off in a video arcade somewhere or doing something normal like all my other friends tell me to do. But instead, I get to do the best job in the world. And that's stand in the midst of community and say, because Jesus. Challenge ourselves. Challenge deeply to find a different way to bring kids into our community so that they're not just that add-on service that we do for people, but they are an integral center point. We were all kids once. Why can't we still be kids? Let's learn from our kids so that when we bring our kids and we bring our friends' kids and we look back to when we have kids, or forward to when we have kids, depending on how you look at that, we can say, this is a community that's important to me, because if it wasn't for this community, I wouldn't be here. It's just that easy, but it's also just that hard. But with God's help, and with a lot of prayer and a lot of courage, I know the church can get there, and I'm living proof. Thank you.